I think people, as more work gets done by I think the human-centered nature of work will become more important. So managers will, less responsible for tasks, but more for looking after relationships and making sure that, where that person has meaning, that person is being fulfilled, that person is developing and growing and learning. So I think more so that these aspects will become more important, the human aspects, and the shadow being one of them. But the way I frame its importance is the consequences of not being aware of the shadow. So, simple example, let's say with Boeing and their Max disaster, 346 people lost their lives in two plane crashes. And a large part of that was a culture in which, when there were failures, there was scapegoating. First, the pilots were blamed and then the engineers. But it was a broader culture of emphasis, let's say, on the cost and on speed rather than on safety and on quality. And also this sense of competition with the competitor, in this case was Airbus. But what happened was these all came together, but in a tragic way that cost human lives. So, and the act of scapegoating is very natural. We talked about that earlier in the conversation, but it is normally an unconscious behavior. And then equally persecuting whistleblowers that were there, that did talk about safety concerns. Yet the shadow behavior is recognizing, when you have somebody that challenges a system, that makes us confront our own guilt and that we don't want to face that. So it's easier to attack, the whistleblower, to be angry at them for raising, issues that we don't want to look at, we don't want to face. So, the shadow can operate, and there's many examples from Boeing is one, but you have Theranos, you have Wells Fargo, you have France Telecom, many examples of corporate failures that not only cost millions of dollars and people their careers, but also cost people's lives. So the importance of being able to recognize the shadow and helping leaders themselves look at that individually to avoid derailment. How many CEOs have we lost from sexual misconduct or through inappropriate financial conduct? To looking at the cultural aspect, to how does the company beyond the individual leader recognize what its shadows are? So we may say on the wall we privilege this, but reality, what does that look like on the ground in terms of how people operate? So the lived culture rather than the espoused culture. And I think having the two, the gap tightened between the two, so that there's more integrity between the two, I think is a vital thing for leaders now.